She took the forest shortcut home after her late shift, same path she'd walked 100 times. Tonight, she found a man chained to a tree, silver burning his skin, barely alive. What she didn't know, the moment she touched those chains to free him, she awakened a bloodline that made her the most wanted person in the supernatural world. And the vampire king she saved would never let her face it alone. Mara's sneakers crunched against frozen leaves as she hurried through Blackwood Forest, her breath forming white clouds in the November air. The diner's shift had run late again, 2 hours past midnight, and the forest path cut 15 minutes off her walk home. She'd made this trek hundreds of times, knew every twisted root and low-hanging branch by heart. Tonight felt different. The air tasted metallic.
Wrong.
Like copper pennies dissolving on her tongue. She should have taken the long way around. Mara pulled her thin jacket tighter, cursing herself for not grabbing her heavier coat. The tips from tonight barely covered groceries, let alone a new winter jacket. 23 years old and still living paycheck to paycheck in a town that forgot her the moment she clocked out. A sound stopped her cold. Not the usual rustling of deer or the hoot of an owl. This was breathing, ragged, painful, human. Hello. Her voice cracked. Someone there? Silence answered, then another wet, struggling breath. Mara's phone flashlight cut through the darkness, sweeping across familiar oak trees until the beam landed on something that shouldn't exist.
A man.
Chained to the ancient oak that marked the forest's halfway point. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She stumbled forward, unable to process what she was seeing. He hung partially suspended, his arms stretched wide and bound to the massive trunk with chains that seemed to glow with an eerie silver light. Strange symbols covered the metal, runes that hurt to look at directly, making her eyes water and her vision blur. The man's head hung forward, dark hair matted with blood. His clothes were shredded, revealing pale skin marked with burns wherever the chains touched. He wasn't moving. "Oh my God," Mara whispered, fumbling for her phone. "I'm calling 911. Just hold on." "No," the word came out as barely more than a breath. His head lifted slightly. In the flashlight's glow, she saw his face, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that reflected her light like a cat's, gleaming gold in the darkness. Her finger froze over the emergency call button. "Please," he rasped. "No police. They'll kill me. Kill you." "Who did this to you?" Mara moved closer despite every instinct screaming at her to run. The chains seemed to pulse with that strange silver glow, and up close, she could see the symbols weren't just etched. They were moving, shifting, and reforming like living things. "Doesn't matter," he coughed, and something dark splattered the ground. "You need to leave. They're coming back." "I'm not leaving someone chained to a tree." Mara reached for the chains. "Don't touch." Her fingers made contact with the metal. Pain exploded through her hand like she'd grabbed a live wire. She yanked back with a yelp, cradling her burned palm against her chest. The skin was angry red, already blistering. "I warned you," the man said, but there was something odd in his voice. Surprise, maybe. The silver. "It shouldn't burn you. Not unless." "Unless what?" Mara wrapped her hand in the hem of her shirt, eyes stinging with tears. "What the hell is this? Some kind of sick game?" "I wish it were." He met her gaze fully now, and she saw the exhaustion there, the resignation. "My name is Valerian."
I'm.
This will sound insane. Try me. I'm already way past insane. I'm a vampire. The Vampire King, to be specific. And someone from my own court betrayed me, left me here to die slowly while these chains drain every drop of power from my blood. Mara stared at him. Vampires. Vampire kings. She should laugh, should run, should do literally anything except stand here listening to a clearly delusional man spout nonsense. But the chains glowed. They burned her. And his eyes, they weren't human eyes. "Vampires aren't real," she said, but her voice shook. "The silver burning your hand isn't real either then?" Valerian's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile in better circumstances. I don't have time to convince you. Listen, do you hear that? Mara went still, straining her ears. Footsteps. Multiple sets, moving through the forest with purpose. They're coming back to finish the job. Valerian's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. They'll see you. They'll know you touched the runes.
Please run.
Forget you saw me. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and with them came voices, low, speaking in a language that sounded like no language she'd ever heard. Mara looked at the man, vampire, her mind supplied helpfully while she had a complete mental breakdown, chained before her, at the burns covering his body, at the way the chains seemed to be leeching the life from him moment by moment. She thought about her grandmother, who'd filled her childhood with stories of monsters and magic, of ancient bloodlines and sacred duties. Stories Mara had dismissed as fairy tales from an old woman losing her grip on reality. Her grandmother, who'd made her memorize strange symbols, who'd insisted Mara never walk this path at night, never touch silver jewelry, never ignore her instincts when something felt wrong. The footsteps were maybe 30 seconds away now. Screw it, Mara muttered. She yanked off her jacket and wrapped it around her already burned hand, layering the fabric thick. Then she grabbed the chains. Pain shot through her again, but muffled this time. She gritted her teeth and pulled, searching for a lock, a clasp, anything. What are you doing? Valerian's eyes went wide. Saving your ungrateful ass. How do I, there? Her fingers found a connection point where two chains met. The runes were concentrated there, burning even through her jacket. She twisted, pulled, and something gave way with a sound like breaking glass. The chains fell slack. Valerian collapsed forward, and Mara caught him despite him being at least 6 inches taller and significantly heavier. He was cold, unnaturally cold, and she could feel him trembling. Can you walk? Yes. Maybe. He pushed himself upright, swaying. We need to go.
Now.
The voices had stopped. That was somehow worse than hearing them approach. Mara grabbed Valerian's arm, slinging it over her shoulder, and together they stumbled away from the oak tree. Her truck was parked on the old service road, maybe a quarter-mile north. If they could just... Something whistled past her ear. She turned her head and saw it embedded in the tree beside them. A crossbow bolt, its tip gleaming the same eerie silver as the chains. Run! Valerian's voice held an edge of command that made her legs move before her brain caught up. They crashed through the undergrowth, branches whipping at their faces. Behind them, footsteps gave chase, fast, impossibly fast. Another bolt sliced past, this one close enough that Mara felt the displacement of air. They will come for you now, Valerian gasped as they ran. You touched the runes. They will know.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Mara didn't waste breath on answering. She just ran, half dragging a vampire king through the forest, her burned hand screaming in pain, and killers at her back. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. When the time comes, Mara, you'll know what to do. Trust your blood. It knows the way. The old woman had been crazy. Or Mara was. Or maybe, just maybe, the world was far stranger and more dangerous than she'd ever imagined, and her boring life as a small-town waitress had just shattered into 1,000 impossible pieces. The service road appeared through the trees ahead, and Mara had never been so happy to see her beat-up pickup truck in her life. They just had to make it 20 more feet. Behind them, something snarled in that inhuman language, and the footsteps got faster. Mara's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys, finally jamming them into the truck's lock. The door groaned open. She'd been meaning to oil those hinges for months, and she practically threw Valerian into the passenger seat. Another bolt struck the truck bed with a metallic thunk. She dove into the driver's seat, turned the ignition, and nothing happened. No, 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 she tried again. The engine sputtered. They're 20 feet behind us, Valerian said, his voice eerily calm despite the situation. If this vehicle doesn't start in the next 5 seconds, we're dead. Not helping. Mara pumped the gas pedal and turned the key again. The engine roared to life. She slammed the truck into reverse, not bothering to check behind her, and hit the gas. The truck lurched backward, and she caught a glimpse in her rearview mirror. 3 figures emerging from the tree line, dressed in dark tactical gear, crossbows raised. Mara spun the wheel, throwing the truck into a chaotic 3-point turn on the narrow service road. Bolts pinged off the tailgate. One shattered her passenger side mirror in an explosion of glass. "Drive faster," Valerian said. "I'm trying." The truck fishtailed on loose gravel as she accelerated. The service road was barely wide enough for one vehicle, full of potholes and erosion grooves that threatened to tear off her suspension. Behind them, headlights flared to life. Of course they had vehicles. "They won't stop," Valerian said, bracing himself against the dashboard as Mara took a turn too fast. "The order will be to eliminate us both."
No witnesses.
"Who are they?" "The Shadow Guard. Elite assassins loyal to whoever paid them," he coughed, wincing. "Whoever betrayed me hired the best." Mara's truck wasn't built for speed. The pursuing vehicle, some kind of black SUV, was gaining on them, its engine a predatory growl cutting through the night. "There's an old ranger station," Mara said, mind racing. "About 2 miles east. It's been abandoned for years, but it's shelter," Valerian nodded. "Better than being run off the road." The SUV rammed into their bumper. Mara's head snapped forward, then back. She tasted blood where she'd bitten her tongue. The truck swerved wildly, tires screaming as she fought for control. "Hold on." She cranked the wheel hard right, taking them off the service road entirely and onto what used to be a fire break path. Trees closed in on both sides, branches scraping paint from her truck with sounds like fingernails on a chalkboard. The SUV tried to follow, but was too wide. She heard the crunch of metal on wood as they fell back, forced to slow down. "You bought us maybe 2 minutes," Valerian said. "They'll find another route or continue on foot." 2 minutes is all I need." Mara killed the headlights, navigating by memory and the faint moonlight filtering through the canopy. Her heart hammered so hard, she thought it might break through her ribs. The ranger station materialized out of the darkness, a squat concrete building with boarded windows and a sagging roof. She pulled the truck behind it, out of sight from the main paths, and cut the engine. Silence crashed down around them, broken only by their ragged breathing. "Can you walk?" Mara whispered. Valerian nodded, but when he tried to get out of the truck, his legs buckled. Mara caught him again, feeling how much colder he'd gotten. The silver poisoning, or whatever those chains had been doing, was still working through his system. She half-carried him to the ranger station's back entrance. The door hung crooked on broken hinges, opening with a rusty squeal that made her wince. Inside, the air smelled of mold and animal droppings. Her phone's flashlight revealed collapsed furniture, graffiti on the walls, and, thank God, no squatters. Mara lowered Valerian onto a relatively clean section of floor against the far wall, then moved to the windows, peering through gaps in the boards. Nothing yet, but they'd come. "Let me see your hand," Valerian said quietly. Mara had almost forgotten about the burn. She unwrapped her jacket, now ruined, and held out her palm. Even in the dim light, the damage was obvious. The skin was blistered and raw, the pattern of the chain's runes seemingly branded into her flesh. Valerian took her hand gently, studying it with those unsettling golden eyes. "This shouldn't have happened," he said. "The silver is keyed to supernatural beings. It's specifically designed to be harmless to humans. The runes are an amplifier. They make the silver lethal to creatures like me, but they should pass through human tissue like light through glass." Well, clearly they didn't get the memo. Mara tried to pull her hand back, but Valerian held on. "Wait. Look." The burns were fading. Not quickly, but visibly, the angry red subsiding to pink, the blisters flattening. Within seconds, only faint marks remained. "How?" A sound outside cut her off. Footsteps. Deliberately slow, searching. Valerian's eyes met hers in the darkness, and Mara saw something there that terrified her more than the chains, more than the silver bolts, more than any of this nightmare. Recognition. "You're not just human," he whispered. "You're something else entirely." The footsteps stopped outside the ranger station door. Mara pressed her finger to her lips, heart hammering. Through the gaps in the boarded windows, she could make out shadows moving, at least 2 figures circling the building. Valerian's hand closed around her wrist, pulling her down beside him. His skin was ice cold, and she could feel him trembling with the effort of staying upright. A voice called out from outside, speaking that strange guttural language. Another voice answered from the opposite side of the building. They were coordinating, boxing them in. The back exit. Mara breathed directly into Valerian's ear. "When I say run." He shook his head firmly, pointing to his legs. He'd collapsed before they made it 10 feet. The silver poisoning had drained him more than she'd realized. The front door rattled.
Testing.
Mara's mind raced. Her truck was still behind the building, but they'd find it soon. And even if they reached it, the assassins would just chase them down again. She needed to think, needed to. Her gaze fell on the remnants of a filing cabinet in the corner. Old ranger station, which meant old equipment, old supplies, maybe even. She crawled across the floor as quietly as possible, praying the ancient floorboards wouldn't creak. Her fingers found the cabinet drawers. The first was empty. The second held nothing but mouse droppings and moldy paper. The third. Her hand closed around something cylindrical and metal. A flare gun. She checked the chamber by phone light. 1 flare loaded, and miraculously, 2 more in the drawer. The manufacturing date was from 1987, but it was worth a shot. Literally. The door rattled again. Harder this time. Wood splintered. Mara crawled back to Valerian and showed him the flare gun. His eyebrows rose, and something that might have been approval flickered across his face. "Distraction," he whispered. "Distraction," she confirmed. The door burst open. Mara didn't wait. She aimed the flare gun at the doorway and pulled the trigger. The flare erupted in a screaming ball of red fire, catching the first assassin square in the chest. He stumbled backward with a shout, his tactical vest igniting. The chemical fire clung to him, spreading, and he fell to the ground outside, rolling and screaming. The second assassin appeared in the doorway, crossbow raised. Valerian moved. Despite his weakened state, despite the silver still poisoning his system, he moved faster than anything human. He grabbed a broken chair leg and hurled it like a javelin. It caught the assassin in the shoulder, spinning him around. The crossbow bolt went wild, embedding itself in the ceiling.
"Now!"
Valerian gasped. "Back door." Mara grabbed his arm, hauling him up. They stumbled through the back of the ranger station, past rotted equipment and collapsed shelving. Behind them, more footsteps pounded into the building, reinforcements. They burst out the back exit into the cold night air. Mara's truck sat 20 feet away, and beyond it, the forest stretched dark and endless. But Valerian was slowing down. Each step seemed to cost him more. "Get to your vehicle," he said through gritted teeth. "Leave me. You can still." "Shut up and keep moving." Mara practically dragged him the last few feet. She threw open the truck's passenger door, and that's when she saw it. A piece of silver chain still wrapped around Valerian's left wrist, half hidden by his tattered sleeve. The runes on it pulsed with that sickly light, and where it touched his skin, the flesh was blackened and burned. "You're still wearing part of the chains." She grabbed at it without thinking. Pain lanced through her burned palm, but she held on, twisting the metal. It came apart in her hands, the runes flickering and dying. A drop of blood welled up from her reopened wound. It fell. Landed on Valerian's wrist, right where the silver had burned deepest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Valerian's skin began to heal. Not slowly like her burns had, but rapidly, impossibly. The blackened flesh turned pink, then pale, the damage erasing itself in seconds. They both stared. That's not possible, Valerian said, his voice barely audible. Human blood doesn't heal vampires. It sustains us, gives us strength, but it doesn't heal. Nothing heals silver burns except time, and he looked up at her, those golden eyes wide with something between awe and fear. What are you? Shouts erupted from inside the ranger station. The assassins had found the back exit. Someone who's saving your life. Apparently, Mara shoved him into the truck. Questions later. Driving now. She slammed the door and ran around to the driver's side. The engine started on the first try, small miracles, and she threw the truck into gear. As they tore away from the ranger station, headlights flaring behind them once again, Mara caught sight of her hand on the steering wheel. The burn marks were completely gone. And beneath where they'd been, faint silver lines traced across her palm, lines that looked suspiciously like the runes from the chains. Lines that were glowing. The truck's engine screamed as Mara pushed it faster than it had ever gone. Behind them, the SUV's headlights carved through the darkness, relentless and gaining. They won't give up, Valerian said. His color had improved slightly. The healing from her blood had given him some strength back, though he still looked half dead. The Shadow Guard never abandons a contract. Then we don't stop until we hit the city. Mara's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Ember Fall's 40 minutes away. There's people there, witnesses, cameras. You think human laws will protect you? Valerian laughed bitterly. The supernatural world operates in the shadows of yours. We've existed alongside humanity for thousands of years, and you never notice.
Great.
Wonderful. I'll have my existential crisis later. Mara yanked the wheel left, taking them onto the main highway. The truck's tires squealed in protest. The SUV followed, now close enough that she could see there were 3 figures inside. How much of your strength is back? She asked. Valerian flexed his hands, testing. Maybe 20%. Enough to fight one of them. Not 3-inch. Better than nothing. Mara's mind raced. The highway into Emberfall was straight and open. No cover. Nowhere to lose them. But once they reached the city limits, the streets became a maze of alleys and one-way roads. If she could just... The SUV rammed them from behind, harder this time. The truck swerved wildly. Mara fought for control, her heart in her throat. They were trying to run her off the road, flip them, end this quickly. They're going to hit us again, Valerian said, unnaturally calm. Brace yourself. The impact came from the side this time. Metal shrieked. The truck tilted, 2 wheels lifting off the pavement. Mara screamed, certain they were going to roll. Then gravity pulled them back down with a bone-jarring crash. That's it, Valerian's voice had changed. Deeper, rougher. More dangerous. Stop the vehicle. Are you insane? Trust me. He met her eyes, and she saw something ancient staring back at her. Something that had survived for centuries and wouldn't die at night. Stop.
Now.
Against every survival instinct, Mara slammed on the brakes. The truck screeched to a halt in the middle of the highway. The SUV shot past them, their driver not expecting the sudden stop. Brake lights flared as they tried to slow down. Valerian was already out of the truck. Despite his injuries, despite the silver poisoning, he moved with deadly grace. He reached the SUV before it fully stopped, grabbed the driver's door, and ripped it off its hinges like it was made of cardboard. The driver swung a silver-edged blade. Valerian caught his wrist, twisted, and the man screamed. The blade clattered to the pavement. 2 more assassins poured out of the SUV's passenger side, crossbows raised. Valerian, Mara shouted. He spun, impossibly fast, using the driver as a shield. The crossbow bolt meant for Valerian's heart struck the driver instead. The man convulsed and went still, the silver working just as lethally on him as it would on any supernatural being. So the assassins weren't human either. Valerian dropped the body and lunged at the second assassin. They collided in a blur of motion too fast for Mara to follow. She heard the crack of breaking bones, a wet gurgling sound, and then Valerian was standing alone, breathing hard. The third assassin had circled around the vehicles, heading straight for Mara. She scrambled back into her truck, reaching for anything she could use as a weapon. Her hand closed around the flare gun, still loaded with 2 more flares. The assassin raised his crossbow, sighting down at her through the windshield. Mara fired first. The flare punched through the windshield in an explosion of glass and red fire. It struck the assassin in the face. He dropped screaming, clawing at the chemical flames consuming his head. Silence fell over the highway, broken only by crackling fire and Valerian's heavy breathing. Mara stepped out of the truck on shaking legs. 3 bodies lay on the pavement. The SUV was a wreck. Her truck's front end was smashed, windshield shattered, and she was pretty sure the frame was bent. "We need to go," Valerian said, already moving toward the SUV. "Others will come. They always send backup teams. That thing's totaled. It'll run." He climbed into the driver's seat, turned the key still dangling in the ignition. The SUV's engine rumbled to life. "Get in. We're going to Emberfall." Mara grabbed what she could from her truck, her purse, phone, a jacket from the back seat, and climbed into the SUV. It smelled like leather and something metallic she tried not to think about. Valerian accelerated smoothly, leaving the carnage behind. Within minutes, they'd put miles between themselves and the bodies. "You killed them," Mara said quietly. "They would have killed us," no emotion in his voice. "Just fact. And they'll keep coming. Whoever wants me dead has unlimited resources and no conscience." "Because you're the Vampire King." "Yes."
And I'm... What?
"What did you call it?" "The bloodline thing." Valerian's hands tightened on the wheel. "I don't know yet. But your blood healed me. The runes responded to you. And those marks on your palm." He glanced at her hand. "Those are protector marks. They haven't been seen in 300 years. The city lights of Emberfall appeared on the horizon, glittering like fallen stars." "We'll be safe there?" Mara asked. Valerian's laugh was dark.
No.
"But we'll be hidden. In a city of 500,000 people, we're just 2 more faces in the crowd. Until they find us again. Until then." Dawn was threatening the horizon when they reached Emberfall's outskirts. Valerian steered them through back roads, avoiding main streets and traffic cameras. His knowledge of the city was intimate. Every alley, every abandoned building, every shadow where something supernatural could hide. "There," he pointed to a rundown motel wedged between a closed factory and an auto repair shop. The kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. The Night Haven Motel's neon sign flickered weakly, half the letters dark. Mara counted maybe 3 other cars in the parking lot. The building itself looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 1970s. "Glamorous," she muttered. "It's south-facing. The rooms have blackout curtains and no windows on the back wall." Valerian's voice was growing weaker again. The brief surge of strength from the fight was fading. "I need darkness. Complete darkness. The sun will kill me in minutes." Mara checked her phone.
6:47 a.m.
Sunrise in less than 30 minutes. She went to the motel office alone. Valerian couldn't risk being seen, couldn't risk the morning light already brightening the sky. The clerk was an elderly man who barely looked up from his crossword puzzle when she paid cash for 3 nights. Room 118, ground floor, back corner. The room was exactly as depressing as she'd expected. Stained carpet, a bed that sagged in the middle, a bathroom that smelled like mildew. But Valerian was right. The curtains were thick vinyl-backed fabric, and when she drew them, not a sliver of light penetrated. She helped him inside just as the sun crested the horizon. Even the indirect morning light made him wince, his skin reddening where it touched. "How bad is it?" she asked. "The sunlight thing." Combustion within 5 minutes of direct exposure. Valerian collapsed onto the bed, his face gray with exhaustion. "Indirect light causes burns. This room will work." Mara locked the door, engaged the chain, then shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. Only then did she let herself fall into the room's single armchair, adrenaline finally crashing. 3 hours ago, she'd been a waitress taking a shortcut home. Now she was harboring a vampire king in a motel room, hiding from supernatural assassins, with glowing marks on her hand that shouldn't exist. I need answers, she said. Real ones. Starting with why my blood healed you. Valerian propped himself up on one elbow, studying her in the darkness. There was an ancient bloodline. Humans, but not quite. They were called the Sanguine Protectors, people whose genetics marked them as guardians of vampire royalty. Guardians? Like bodyguards? More than that. Companions. Advisors. And in times of crisis, healers. His golden eyes reflected the faint light leaking under the door. A protector's blood could neutralize silver poisoning, accelerate healing, even shield a vampire from certain types of magic. In return, the vampire they bonded with gave them extended life, enhanced strength, and protection. Sounds like a pretty one-sided deal. It was symbiotic. The protectors weren't slaves, they were honored. Powerful. But the bloodline was dangerous. Other vampire courts feared them, feared what it meant for a king to have such an advantage. Valerian's expression darkened. 300 years ago, the bloodline wars happened. Every protector family was hunted down and eliminated. Every single 1 inch. Apparently not every single one, Mara said, looking at her marked palm. Apparently not. Valerian lay back down. Someone in your lineage survived. Went into hiding. Your family probably didn't even know what they were. The gifts only activate in the presence of vampire royalty. Mara thought about her grandmother. The strange stories. The warnings. The way she'd always insisted Mara was special, destined for something greater than their small town. My grandmother, she said slowly. She used to tell me stories about our family. Said we were descended from ancient warriors, protectors of kings. I thought she was just making things up. Creating a fantasy to make our boring lives seem interesting. She was trying to prepare you, in case you ever encountered one of us. Fat lot of good it did, Mara laughed bitterly. I had no idea what I was walking into. I just saw someone hurt, and she stopped.
Wait.
Why was I even there? I take that shortcut every night, but I've never seen anything weird before. Why night? Valerian went very still. What do you mean you take that path every night? For 2 years. Ever since I got the job at Martha's Diner. The forest cuts 15 minutes off my walk. The chains were placed on that tree 3 days ago, Valerian said softly. I was left there to die slowly, the silver siphoning my power into the runes. Someone knew you'd pass by eventually. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. You're saying this was a setup? Someone wanted me to find you. I'm saying someone knew a protector bloodline still existed in this area. They needed you to reveal yourself. Valerian sat up despite his exhaustion. The runes on those chains, they were designed to call to you, to make you feel compelled to stop, to touch them. Mara remembered that wrongness she'd felt in the forest. The metallic taste in the air. The way she'd been unable to just walk past. But who would know about me? I didn't even know about me until tonight. That's what we need to figure out. Because whoever orchestrated this isn't just trying to kill me. Valerian's eyes met hers, and she saw genuine fear there for the first time. They're trying to capture you. And now that you've activated your protector marks, you're broadcasting your existence to every supernatural creature within 100 miles. Outside, the city was waking up. Traffic sounds filtered through the thin walls. Normal people going about normal lives, completely unaware that monsters were real, and one was lying in a motel room 10 feet away from them. Mara looked at her glowing palm marks again. They pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. How do I turn them off? You can't, Valerian said. They're part of you now. They'll fade slightly when we're apart, but they'll never fully disappear. Great. So, I'm a supernatural beacon. Yes. And there's no way to hide. Valerian hesitated. There might be one place. Records. Information about the old protector families, how they hid, what techniques they used. He paused. There's a library in Brimwater, 3 hours north. It houses the last known archive of supernatural history. A library. You want to go to a library. I want answers. And I want you to understand what you've become, his voice softened. You saved my life, Mara. But in doing so, you've painted a target on your back that will never fade. You deserve to know everything. Mara closed her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. We'll sleep first, she decided. A few hours at least. Then we'll figure out our next move. Agreed. But as Mara curled up in the armchair, unable to bring herself to share the bed with a vampire king no matter how tired she was, one thought kept circling through her mind. Someone had set all this in motion. Someone who knew exactly what she was before she did. And they were still out there, waiting. Mara jolted awake to the sound of her phone buzzing. For a confused moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. Motel room. Vampire king. Glowing hand marks. She checked her phone. 17 missed calls from her boss at the diner. 12 texts asking where she was. The last one read, "If you're not dead in a ditch, you're fired." "Good morning to you too, Martha," Mara muttered. "What time is it?" Valerian's voice came from the darkness. 2 in the afternoon, she rubbed her eyes. 4 hours of sleep, maximum. Her body felt like it had been used as a punching bag. "How are you feeling?" Stronger, he sat up, and she could hear the truth in his voice. Whatever her blood had done, it was still working. "We should leave soon. The longer we stay in one place." Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Martha. The news alert made her blood run cold. Breaking. 3 bodies found on Highway 7. Police investigating. Witnesses report seeing a woman matching this description. There was a sketch. It looked enough like her to be problematic. "They're spinning a story," Valerian said, reading over her shoulder. "Making you look like a criminal. Classic tactic. Turn the human authorities against you, so you have nowhere to run. This is insane. I didn't kill those people. You killed them. In self-defense. Try explaining that to police who don't believe in vampires." Valerian moved to the window, carefully peering through a gap in the curtains. "We need to leave. Now." "Something feels wrong." Mara opened her mouth to ask what he meant. Then she felt it too. A prickling sensation at the base of her skull. Like being watched. Like standing too close to a cliff edge in the dark. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. Valerian's head snapped toward her. "You shouldn't be able to sense them. Not yet. Your abilities are developing faster than they should." "Sense what?" "Hunters. At least 4, maybe more. Closing in on this location." Mara's heart rate spiked. "How do they know we're here?" "Your protector marks. They're like a beacon, remember?" Valerian was already gathering their few possessions. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they breach this room." But as Mara stood, the prickling sensation intensified. Her vision blurred, darkened around the edges. The motel room seemed to fade, replaced by a street corner 3 blocks away. 4 figures in dark clothes, moving with purpose. One of them holds a device that glows with the same eerie silver light as the chains. It's pointing toward the motel, like a compass finding north. Mara gasped, stumbling backward. The vision disappeared, and she was back in the room. "What just happened?" Her voice shook. Valerian stared at her. "You saw them, didn't you?" Yes. 3 blocks away. 4 of them. They have some kind of tracking device." "That's not possible. Protectors can't." He stopped himself. "Unless the old texts were wrong. Or incomplete." The prickling sensation spiked again. "Closer now." "We don't have time for this." Mara grabbed her jacket. "Back exit." "There isn't one. This room only has the front door and a bathroom window too small for either of us. Then we go through the front and hope we're faster than they are." Valerian's laugh was sharp. "I'm a vampire king. Even weakened, I'm faster than any hunter alive. The question is whether you can keep up." Mara looked at her marked palm. The runes were glowing brighter now, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. That same instinct that had made her stop in the forest, made her free Valerian from the chains. It was screaming at her now. Protect him.
Run. Fight.
Survive. I'll keep up, she said. They slipped out of the room into the motel's covered walkway. The afternoon sun was brutal. Valerian pulled his stolen jacket's hood up, covering as much skin as possible, but Mara could see him wincing with each step. The parking lot appeared empty. Too empty. They're here, Valerian said, waiting for us to move into the open. The SUV's right there. 20 feet. 20 feet through direct sunlight. Mara looked at the gap between the covered walkway and their vehicle. For Valerian, it might as well be a mile. The prickling sensation suddenly exploded into full alarm. Down. Mara didn't question the instinct. She tackled Valerian backward just as a crossbow bolt sliced through the space where his head had been. It struck the motel room door behind them, silver tip gleaming. How did you know? Valerian asked. I don't know. I felt it coming. 3 figures dropped from the motel's roof, landing in perfect formation between them and the SUV. Unlike the assassins from last night, these hunters wore tactical gear with strange symbols stitched into the fabric, wards, maybe, or protective runes. Valerian Darkmoor, the center hunter said. His voice was distorted, filtered through some kind of mask. By order of the Night Council, you are to be executed for crimes against the supernatural order. The Night Council, Valerian's voice dripped with contempt. So my dear cousin has already claimed my throne and established his puppets in power. And the human, the hunter continued, is to be taken alive. Mara's blood turned to ice. Taken where? To the one who owns you. The one who marked your bloodline 3 centuries ago and has been waiting for your family to resurface. Nobody owns me, Mara said. The hunter's laugh was cold. Your blood says otherwise. You were bred for servitude, protector, created to be bonded and controlled. You just didn't know it yet. Rage flooded through Mara, sudden, burning, absolute. How dare they? How dare they suggest she was anyone's property? The marks on her palm flared blindingly bright. The hunters raised their crossbows. And Mara's vision split again, but different this time. She could see from multiple angles at once, her own perspective, and somehow, impossibly, Valerian's too. She felt what he felt, the sun burning his skin, his muscles coiling to fight despite the pain, his absolute certainty that he would die before letting them take her. Together, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she said it out loud or just thought it. Together, Valerian agreed, and she realized he'd heard her thoughts. The hunters fired. Mara moved before her conscious mind could process what she was doing. Her body knew, the protector instincts taking over. She grabbed Valerian and pulled him sideways with strength she shouldn't possess. The bolts missed by inches. Valerian surged forward, and Mara moved with him, their actions synchronized like they'd trained together for years instead of hours. He struck the first hunter while she kicked out at the second, her foot connecting with the woman's knee. Something crunched. The third hunter swung a silver blade at Mara's throat. Time seemed to slow. She saw the blade coming, saw the trajectory, saw the exact moment to duck, the precise angle to grab his wrist, the pressure point that would make him drop the weapon. She executed this sequence perfectly. The blade clattered to the pavement. What are you? The hunter gasped. Mara didn't answer. She couldn't, because she didn't know what she was becoming. Only that it was something far more dangerous than anyone expected. They took the hunter's vehicle, a nondescript van with tinted windows that protected Valerian from the sun. Mara drove while he navigated, directing her onto back roads that wound through farmland and forgotten towns. The connection we had back there, Mara said, breaking an hour of silence. When I could feel what you were thinking, see through your eyes. The bond, Valerian said quietly. It's forming faster than it should. Usually, it takes weeks of proximity for a protector and their vampire to develop that level of synchronization. Can you feel what I'm feeling right now? He was quiet for a moment.
Fear.
Anger. Determination. And underneath it all, curiosity. You want to know what you truly are, even though the answer terrifies you. Stop reading my emotions. I can't. The bond isn't something I control. It just is. He shifted in his seat. For what it's worth, you can read mine too if you focus. Mara didn't want to focus. Didn't want to open that door any wider. But despite herself, she reached out with that new sense and nearly gasped.
Pain.
He was in constant pain. The silver poisoning was still working through his system, a slow burn in his veins. And beneath that, guilt. Heavy, crushing guilt. You blame yourself, she said, for dragging me into this. Don't do that, Valerian said sharply. Don't pity me. It's not pity. It's just, she struggled for words. You didn't ask for this either. To be betrayed, chained, left to die. But I knew the risks of being king. You were just a waitress walking home from work. His voice softened. You deserved better than this. The landscape shifted from farmland to forest as they drove north. Brimwater appeared just as the sun began its descent, a town that looked like it had been frozen in time around 1950. Main Street was lined with brick buildings, mom-and-pop shops, and a diner with an actual soda fountain in the window. The library's on the edge of town, Valerian said, built over what used to be a monastery. The monks collected supernatural texts centuries ago, preserving knowledge that would have otherwise been lost. They parked behind an old stone building that looked more like a church than a library. Gothic architecture, stained glass windows, gargoyles perched on the corners. A small brass plaque beside the door read, Brimwater Historical Archives. How do we get in? Mara asked. It's after hours. Valerian smiled grimly and tried the door handle. It opened smoothly. They're always open to those who need them, he said. That's part of the monastery's original covenant. Sanctuary and knowledge for any supernatural being who seeks it. Inside, the library was breathtaking. Vaulted ceilings disappeared into shadows. Bookshelves stretched 3 stories high, accessible by wrought iron spiral staircases. The air smelled of old paper, leather, and something else, incense, maybe, or ancient magic. A figure emerged from between the shelves. An elderly woman with silver hair and sharp green eyes that seemed to see straight through them. Valerian Darkmoor, she said. I wondered when you'd arrive. The whispers have been insistent. Sister Margaret. Valerian bowed slightly. We need access to the restricted archives. The sections on protector bloodlines. Of course you do. Her gaze shifted to Mara, and those green eyes widened. By the old gods. She's manifested already. The marks are fully formed. You can see them? Mara held up her palm. Child, everyone with even a drop of supernatural blood can see them. You're broadcasting your heritage like a lighthouse in a storm. Sister Margaret moved closer, studying Mara with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Your power signature is extraordinary. Stronger than any protector in recorded history. That's impossible, Valerian said. The bloodlines were diluted over generations. Each successive protector was weaker than the last. Unless this one isn't from a diluted line, Sister Margaret turned and headed deeper into the library.
Come.
What you need to see is in the catacombs. They followed her down a spiral staircase that seemed to descend forever. The air grew colder, damper. Electric lights gave way to oil lamps that cast dancing shadows on stone walls. The catacombs were filled with filing cabinets, ancient chests, and shelves packed with documents in languages Mara didn't recognize. Sister Margaret pulled out a leather-bound book, its cover marked with a symbol Mara had seen before, in her grandmother's jewelry box. The Registry of Protector Houses, Sister Margaret said, opening it carefully. Every family line, every birth, every death, recorded for 2,000 years. She turned pages until she found what she was looking for. Her finger traced down a genealogy chart, following one line through centuries of names. The House of Ravencrest, she read. The first protectors. They served the original vampire kings before the courts were established, before politics corrupted the bond. They were the strongest, the purest, and the most dangerous. She looked up at Mara. They were also declared extinct in 1723. My grandmother's name was Ravencrest, Mara whispered. Ilara Ravencrest. Sister Margaret flipped to another page. A family tree with most branches crossed out in red ink. But one thin line continued, names written in tiny script, survivors who'd hidden, changed their names, scattered across the world. The last name on the list was Eleanor Ravencrest, Mara's grandmother. And beside it, a note in faded ink. Final bloodline. Heir protected. Location unknown. They were hunting your family, Valerian said. For 300 years, someone has been systematically eliminating every Ravencrest descendant. But why? We weren't hurting anyone. We were just existing, Sister Margaret interrupted. The mere existence of a first protector is a threat to whoever currently holds power. Because a first protector's bond can't be broken, can't be controlled, can't be corrupted. She closed the book carefully. You're not just a protector, Mara. You're the protector. The last of the original line. And your blood has the power to restore or destroy entire vampire courts. Mara felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders like chains. There's something else, Sister Margaret said, pulling out a smaller book. A journal, written by the last Ravencrest matriarch before she went into hiding. She opened it to a page marked with a black ribbon. The handwriting was elegant, careful. They took my daughter. Said they needed her blood for a ritual. When I found her, she was changed, marked with runes that shouldn't exist. They're trying to create something. A weapon or a tool, I don't know. But they want to control the protector bond, to twist it into servitude. If you're reading this, if you're my descendant, know this. Your blood is your own. No one can claim it. No one can own you. Trust your instincts. They carry the wisdom of 1,000 generations. Below the entry was a seal, pressed into wax, still preserved after centuries. It was identical to the marks glowing on Mara's palm. Someone's been trying to recreate the protector bond, Valerian said slowly. To manufacture it, control it. And they needed you to activate, Mara finished. That's why they chained you where I'd find you. They wanted to see if the bloodline still existed, if it would respond. Which means whoever is behind this has been planning for a very long time, Sister Margaret said grimly. Footsteps echoed from the top of the staircase. Multiple sets. Moving fast. They found us, Valerian said. Sister Margaret smiled, sharp and fierce despite her age. Then it's a good thing this library has more exits than entrances. Follow me, quickly. Sister Margaret led them through a maze of passages carved into the bedrock beneath the library. The footsteps above multiplied, hunters flooding into the building, shouting coordinates and sealing exits. They've surrounded us, Valerian said, his enhanced hearing picking up movements Mara couldn't detect yet. The catacombs connect to the old monastery tunnels, Sister Margaret said, moving with surprising speed for her age. They run under half the town. You can emerge near the train yards. You're not coming with us? Mara asked. Someone needs to slow them down. Besides, Sister Margaret's smile was dangerous. I've been the keeper of these archives for 60 years. You think I don't know how to defend them? They reached a junction where 3 tunnels branched off. Sister Margaret pressed a leather satchel into Mara's hands. Everything you need to know about your bloodline. Guard it with your life. Thank you, Mara said. Don't thank me yet. What's coming will test you in ways you can't imagine. Sister Margaret looked at Valerian. Protect her. Not because she's your protector, because she's the key to everything. Before either could respond, she turned back toward the library, already muttering words in a language that made the air shimmer. Valerian grabbed Mara's hand. This way. Quickly. They ran through tunnels that seemed to shift and twist, following Valerian's instincts. Behind them, Mara heard explosions, Sister Margaret making good on her promise to slow the hunters down. The tunnel opened into a drainage culvert near the abandoned train yards. The sun had set completely, giving Valerian full strength. He moved like shadow given form, pulling Mara along until they reached a maintenance building. Inside, Mara collapsed against a wall, gasping. Her phone buzzed. She'd somehow still had service. A news alert flashed across the screen, and her blood turned to ice. Breaking. Vampire King Valerian Darkmoor declared dead. Crown Prince Cassius assumes throne. Below it, a video was autoplaying. A press conference. A pale, beautiful man with dark hair and eyes like chips of ice stood before a sea of reporters. "My dear cousin," Cassius said, his voice smooth as silk and twice as deadly, "was taken from us by tragic circumstances. A human woman, Mara Ravencrest, abducted him from his transport, subjecting him to torture before ultimately ending his life." The screen showed Mara's driver's license photo. "She is extremely dangerous," Cassius continued, "armed with stolen supernatural artifacts and aided by unknown accomplices. If you see her, do not approach. Contact authorities immediately." "He's your cousin?" Mara breathed. "He's the traitor." Valerian's voice was pure rage. "He orchestrated everything. The assassination, the chains, finding you, all of it. But why go through all this? Why not just kill you and be done with it?" "Because killing a sitting vampire king requires unanimous court approval. But if I simply disappeared, if I died under mysterious circumstances at the hands of a human," Valerian's fists clenched, "he gets the throne by default. And he gets to blame my death on you, which means every vampire and hunter will be after me," Mara finished. "I'm not just wanted by assassins anymore. I'm wanted by everyone." Her phone rang. Unknown number. Mara's instinct screamed not to answer, but something made her press the button. "Hello, Mara." Cassius's voice was even more chilling in person. "I've been waiting 300 years to meet a Ravencrest. How did you get this number?" "I have access to everything now. Police databases, cell towers, satellite surveillance. Being king has its privileges." His laugh was cold. "You've been very entertaining. Escaping my shadow guard, surviving the hunter attacks, even finding the library. You're stronger than I expected. What do you want?" "The same thing I've always wanted. Complete control over the protector bond. You see, your ancestors were too independent, too powerful. They chose their kings instead of serving whoever claimed the throne. That's unacceptable." Mara felt Valerian tense beside her, listening. "So you've been killing off my family for centuries," Mara said. "Studying them, actually. Each generation gave me more data, more understanding of how the bloodline works. Your grandmother was particularly useful before she escaped." Cassius's voice took on an eager edge. "But you, Mara, you're the culmination of everything. The purest bloodline, the strongest manifestation. When I bond you to myself, I'll have power beyond any vampire king in history. I'll never bond with you. You won't have a choice. That's what the ritual is for. The same one I've perfected over 3 centuries of trial and error." He paused. "Valerian's mother was my first successful subject, actually, before the ritual killed her." Beside Mara, Valerian went absolutely still. "Yes, cousin," Cassius purred, clearly sensing his reaction somehow. "How do you think I've been manipulating you all these years? Why do you think you trusted me, protected me, gave me positions of power? Your mother's bond to me passed to you when you were born. I've been controlling you your entire life, and you never knew." "You're lying," Valerian said, but Mara could feel his doubt through their bond. "Am I? Think about every major decision you've made, every advisor you appointed, every policy you enacted. All of it serving my interests, moving my pieces into place." Cassius laughed. "You were never really king, Valerian. You were just my puppet. And now, I don't need you anymore." The call ended. Mara looked at Valerian. His face was a mask of horror and rage, centuries of certainty crumbling. "If he's been controlling you," Mara started, "then everything I've done, every choice I thought was mine." Valerian's voice broke. "It was all him. My entire reign was a lie." "No," Mara grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. "You broke free. You're here now, making your own choices. That's what matters. But he's coming for you. He has the resources of the entire vampire court, human law enforcement, and supernatural hunters at his disposal." Valerian's eyes met hers. I can't protect you from that. No one can. Mara felt the protector mark's pulse on her palm, felt the bond between them thrumming with power. Then we don't run anymore, she said. We end this. We go after him. That's suicide.
Maybe.
But it's better than spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for him to complete his ritual and turn me into a slave, Mara's jaw set with determination. Besides, I'm not just some powerless human anymore. I'm a Ravencrest, the last of the first protectors. And if Cassius wants to control me that badly, it means he's afraid of what I could do if I learned to use my full power. Valerian studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled a real smile, fierce and feral. You're absolutely insane. I learned from the best. Mara pulled out Sister Margaret's satchel, dumping the contents. Books, journals, and a map marked with locations across the country. Now, let's figure out how to kill a vampire king. Outside, sirens wailed. Helicopters thundered overhead. Every law enforcement agency in 3 states was hunting them. But Mara wasn't afraid anymore. She was done running. It was time to fight back. The old Emberfall Cathedral had been abandoned for 40 years, its Gothic spires crumbling and its stained glass windows shattered. But beneath it, according to Sister Margaret's map, lay a network of crypts that connected to the underground supernatural highway, a series of tunnels vampires had used for centuries to move unseen through the city. If we can reach the highway, Valerian said, studying the map by flashlight, we can get to the Blood Oath crypt without being tracked. It's our only chance. They'd broken into the cathedral just after midnight, slipping past police checkpoints and surveillance drones. Mara's new instincts made it almost easy. She could sense the hunters before seeing them, anticipate patrol patterns, feel the safest paths through the city, like invisible threads pulling her forward. The cathedral's interior was a skeleton of its former glory. Pews lay broken and scattered. The altar had collapsed. Moonlight streamed through the ruined roof, casting everything in silver and shadow. The entrance to the crypts is behind the altar, Valerian said. There should be a... Mara's protector marks flared with searing heat. Down. She tackled Valerian sideways as a massive iron chandelier crashed down from the ceiling, landing exactly where they'd been standing. The impact shook the floor, dust exploding into the air. Impressive reflexes. A voice called from above. Mara looked up. Figures descended from the cathedral's upper levels, dropping from broken balconies and rappelling down walls. 6 of them, all wearing tactical gear marked with Cassius's royal seal. Not just hunters. Elite royal guards. The prince sends his regards, the leader said, landing gracefully on the rubble-strewn floor. She was tall, blade-thin, with silver hair despite appearing no older than 30. He wants the Ravencrest alive. Everyone else is expendable. Everyone else meaning me, Valerian said flatly. Former King Valerian, the woman smiled, showing elongated fangs.
Yes.
The prince has issued execution orders. Your death will be recorded as killed while resisting arrest. 3 guards moved to flank them while the other 2 took positions blocking the only visible exits. They moved with supernatural speed and precision. These weren't human mercenaries. These were vampires, possibly centuries old, trained killers loyal to Cassius. Mara, Valerian said quietly, when I move, you run for the crypt entrance. Don't look back. I'm not leaving you. You have to. The guards attacked. 2 came at Valerian simultaneously, silver blades flashing. He met them with inhuman speed, deflecting one strike and dodging another, but even at full strength he was outnumbered. The other 4 converged on Mara. Time seemed to slow, that same sensation she'd felt during the motel fight, but amplified 100-fold. Her vision split into multiple perspectives. She could see herself through the guard's eyes, through Valerian's eyes, through some omniscient overhead view that shouldn't be possible. The first guard lunged with a silver net designed to contain supernatural beings. Duck left, pivot right, grab her extended arm, use her momentum. Mara moved, without thinking, executing the sequence perfectly. The guard flew over her shoulder, crashing into a broken pew. The second guard came from behind, blade aimed at her spine. He favors his left leg. Old injury, never healed properly. Strike there first. Mara spun and kicked, her foot connecting with the guard's left knee. Something crunched. He went down screaming. "What the hell is she?" one of them shouted. The third and fourth attacked together, trying to overwhelm her with coordinated strikes. But Mara could feel them coming. Not just see, feel. Every intention, every movement, broadcast through the air like ripples in water. She dodged, blocked, countered with a grace and skill she'd never possessed before. Her protector marks blazed like miniature suns. And then something shifted inside her. Power erupted from her palms, not fire or lightning, but pure force, an invisible wave of energy that slammed into the two guards and sent them flying backward into the cathedral walls. The stone cracked from impact. Mara stared at her hands, shocked. "How did I?" "Behind you." Valerian's voice. The silver-haired leader had circled around, blade raised for a killing strike aimed at Mara's neck. Mara's instincts screamed at her to move, but her body had a different idea. Instead of dodging, she turned and raised her marked palm. The blade struck an invisible barrier 2 inches from her skin, a shimmering wall of translucent energy that formed between them like solidified air. The silver sparked and hissed where it made contact, unable to penetrate. "Impossible," the leader breathed. "The barrier shield. That ability was lost centuries ago." Mara didn't understand what was happening, but she felt the barrier clearly now, an extension of herself, a protective shell she could shape and control. She pushed, and the barrier expanded violently, throwing the leader backward. Across the cathedral, Valerian had gained the upper hand against his two opponents. He fought with lethal efficiency, using their overconfidence against them. One guard fell, then the second, both incapacitated but alive. The cathedral fell silent except for the groaning of wounded guards. The silver-haired leader pulled herself upright, bleeding from a cut on her forehead. She looked at Mara with something between awe and terror. "You're not just a protector," she said. "You're a first shield." The legends were true. "What's a first shield?" Mara demanded. The original protectors could do more than heal and fight. They could manifest their will as physical force, barriers, shields, even weapons made of pure energy. The leader backed toward the cathedral entrance. "Prince Cassius doesn't know what you truly are. When he finds out, tell him I'm coming for him," Mara said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Tell him the Raven Crest line isn't broken. We're just getting started." The leader hesitated, then fled, moving with vampire speed until she disappeared into the night. The remaining guards retreated as well, dragging their wounded. Within seconds, the cathedral was empty except for Mara and Valerian. Valerian stared at her. "A first shield. I thought they were mythology." "Apparently not." Mara looked at her hands. The marks had stopped glowing, but she could still feel the power humming beneath her skin, waiting. "What does this mean?" "It means you're more dangerous than Cassius anticipated. A first shield can't just protect their bonded vampire. They can protect entire armies, destroy enemy forces, even breach magical defenses that would stop anyone else." Valerian's expression was complicated. "It also means you're the greatest threat Cassius has ever faced. He'll throw everything at us now." "Good," Mara said grimly. "Let him come." She moved toward the altar, searching for the crypt entrance. Behind the collapsed stone, she found it. A hidden staircase leading down into darkness. "The Blood Oath Crypt is through here?" she asked. If Sister Margaret's map is accurate. It's a 2-day journey through the underground. Valerian joined her at the entrance. "Are you sure about this?" "Once we enter, there's no turning back. Cassius will know where we're headed. He'll be waiting." Mara thought about her grandmother, hiding for decades to protect her. About the countless Ravencrests murdered over 3 centuries. about the bond Cassius wanted to twist into slavery. She thought about who she'd been just 2 days ago, a waitress in a dead-end town, thinking her life was small and meaningless. She'd been so wrong. "I'm sure," she said, and started down the stairs into darkness. Valerian followed, and together they descended into the supernatural underworld, heading toward a confrontation that would determine not just their fates, but the future of every vampire kingdom and protector bloodline that still existed. The real battle was just beginning. The underground highway was nothing like Mara imagined. She'd expected dank tunnels and dripping water. Instead, they walked through passages carved from living rock, walls etched with glowing runes that provided eerie blue-green light. The air was cool and dry, tasting faintly of minerals and ancient magic. "These tunnels are thousands of years old," Valerian explained as they walked. "Built before vampire courts existed, when our kind lived openly among humans. Back when the bond between protectors and vampires was sacred, not political." "What changed?" Mara asked. "Power.
Greed.
The usual human failings. Except vampires live long enough to perfect them," his voice was bitter. "The old kings understood that protectors were partners, equals. But later generations saw them as tools. When your ancestors refused to be controlled, they were exterminated." They'd been walking for hours, following Sister Margaret's map through twisting passages that branched and reconnected in dizzying patterns. Occasionally, they passed other travelers, pale figures who gave them wide berth, eyes glowing in the darkness. Word of the Ravencrest's return had clearly spread. "They're afraid of you," Valerian observed. "And they should be. A first shield hasn't existed since the Bloodline Wars. I don't even know how I did that. The barrier thing." Mara looked at her marked palm. "It just happened. Instinct. Your bloodline remembering what it was designed to do." Valerian paused at a junction where 3 tunnels met. "The power will grow stronger the closer we get to the crypt. That place was built to amplify protector abilities." "Why?" "Because blood oath rituals require massive amounts of power. A protector and their vampire must channel their combined strength to forge an unbreakable bond." He chose the left tunnel and continued walking. "It's also where vampire kings are crowned. The crypt recognizes royal bloodlines and protector marks. It will respond to us both. And Cassius knows this. He's counting on it. The crypt is the one place his control over me might break completely. The old magic there can sever corrupted bonds. But it's also a trap. Once we enter, he can seal us inside." Mara thought about that. "So we're walking into an ambush." "Yes. And you're okay with this?" Valerian stopped, turning to face her. In the rune light, his features looked carved from marble, beautiful and inhuman. "Mara, I've been a puppet for centuries. Every decision I thought was mine, every action I took as king, all of it orchestrated by Cassius. I can't live knowing that. I won't, even if it kills you. Especially if it kills me. At least then I'll die making my own choice." His golden eyes held hers. "But I won't let him take you. Whatever happens in that crypt, you walk out alive. That's non-negotiable." The bond between them pulsed, and Mara felt his absolute certainty. He meant every word. "We'll both walk out," she said firmly. "Together." Before Valerian could respond, Mara's protector marks flared with warning. Something was coming. From behind them, a sound like tearing fabric split the air. Mara spun to see the tunnel walls rippling, reality itself bending. Figures emerged from the distortion, creatures that hurt to look at directly, their forms shifting between solid and shadow. "Shadow-stitched," Valerian hissed. "Cassius is sending demons after us." The creatures moved like liquid darkness, gliding along the tunnel walls and sealing with impossible grace. There were 6 of them, maybe more, hard to count when they kept phasing in and out of visibility. "Run!" Valerian grabbed Mara's hand, and they sprinted down the tunnel. The Shadow-Stitch pursued, their keening wails echoing off stone. One dropped from the ceiling directly in their path, reforming into something with too many teeth and not enough eyes. Mara raised her hand instinctively. The barrier's shield manifested, slamming into the creature and disrupting its form. It shrieked and scattered like smoke, but two more took its place. "I can't hold them all off," Mara gasped, running. "You don't have to. Look." Valerian pointed ahead. The tunnel opened into a massive cavern, and in its center, rising from the stone floor like a small mountain, stood the Blood Oath Crypt. It was magnificent and terrible, a structure of black stone and silver veins, covered in runes that blazed with power. Massive doors stood open, inviting and threatening simultaneously. They ran for it. The shadow stitch multiplied, pouring from the walls now. Dozens of them, hundreds maybe, all converging on Mara and Valerian. Claws scraped stone. Teeth gnashed. The air filled with their hunting cries. 20 feet from the crypt entrance, a shadow stitch materialized directly in front of Mara, its form solidifying into something massive and predatory. She threw up a barrier, but this one was stronger. It pushed through, claws reaching for her throat. Valerian tackled it mid-lunge, both of them crashing to the ground in a tangle of limbs and shadows. The creature's claws raked across his chest, drawing black blood. "Go," he shouted. "Get inside the crypt. Not without you." Mara grabbed Valerian's arm and pulled, her first shield strength allowing her to yank him away from the creature. They scrambled the last few feet to the crypt entrance. The moment they crossed the threshold, the runes on the doorway blazed like stars going supernova. The shadow stitch slammed into an invisible barrier, unable to enter. They seethed and writhed at the entrance, but the crypt's ancient magic held firm. This was sacred ground. They couldn't touch it. Mara collapsed against the wall, gasping. Valerian was beside her, bleeding from multiple wounds but alive. "We made it," she breathed. Part 1. Valerian said grimly, looking deeper into the crypt. The interior was vast, a cathedral-sized space with a vaulted ceiling that disappeared into darkness. The floor was inlaid with intricate patterns of silver and gold, forming a massive ritual circle. At the center stood an altar made of pure white stone, and standing beside it, Cassius. He looked exactly like his press conference, pale, beautiful, with dark hair and ice-chip eyes. But in person, Mara could feel the wrongness radiating from him. Corrupted power.
Stolen magic.
Centuries of manipulation crystallized into something monstrous. "Cousin," Cassius said, smiling. "Welcome home. And Miss Ravencrest, I'm so pleased you could join us. I've prepared everything for your bonding ceremony." Around him, arranged in a circle, stood 12 royal guards. But these weren't ordinary vampires. They wore robes marked with the same runes as the chains that had bound Valerian, and their eyes glowed with that eerie silver light. "You can't leave," Cassius continued pleasantly. "I sealed the crypt the moment you entered. And you can't fight. My blood mages will drain you both before you take 3 steps," he gestured to the altar. "So, let's not waste time. Mara, if you submit willingly to the bonding ritual, I'll let Valerian die quickly. Painlessly. If you resist," his smile widened. "Well, I've perfected the art of torture over many lifetimes. I can make his death last weeks." Mara felt the bond between her and Valerian thrumming with shared determination. "There's a third option," she said, stepping forward. "Oh," Cassius raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "We destroy you." Mara's protector marks ignited with blinding light, and she charged. Mara's barrier shield exploded outward as she ran, a wave of pure force that slammed into the nearest blood mages. 2 went flying, their concentration shattered. The silver glow in their eyes flickered and died. "Impressive," Cassius said, unfazed. "But predictable." He gestured lazily, and the remaining mages began chanting in unison. The ritual circle on the floor blazed to life, runes crawling up the walls like living fire. The air grew thick, viscous, making it hard to move. Valerian pushed through it with brute strength, heading straight for Cassius. But 3 blood mages intercepted him, their combined magic forming chains of pure energy that wrapped around his limbs. "You see, cousin?" Cassius circled them like a predator. "I've spent centuries preparing for this moment. Every contingency planned. Every variable accounted for." He pulled something from his robes, a shard of the silver chain that had bound Valerian to the tree. Including this, he drove the shard into the ritual circle's center point. The crypt's magic screamed. Valerian collapsed, the stolen bond between him and Cassius suddenly pulled tight like a noose. Through their connection, Mara felt his agony, centuries of manipulation condensing into a single moment of absolute control. "Stop it!" Mara threw a barrier at Cassius, but he deflected it with a wave of his hand. "I'm not hurting him, dear. I'm completing him." The bond his mother and I shared was interrupted by her inconvenient death. But now, with the crypt's power amplifying everything, Cassius's eyes gleamed. "I can finally make Valerian fully mine. A puppet king who serves his master perfectly." The blood mages' chanting intensified. The silver shard pulsed with dark light, and Mara watched in horror as matching runes began appearing on Valerian's skin, the same corrupted marks she'd seen on the chains. "No." She reached for him through their bond, trying to pull him back, and felt something unexpected. The bond between her and Valerian wasn't just emotional. It was structural, woven into the fabric of his being. And where it touched Cassius's corrupted connection, the two magics were at war, fighting for dominance. "Interesting," Cassius said, noticing her concentration. "You're trying to sever my bond. Adorable, but futile. My connection has existed for centuries. Yours is barely 2 days old. Then I'll just have to make mine stronger." Mara placed her marked palm against the ritual circle's edge. The crypt responded instantly. Power flooded into her, not just from the crypt, but from something deeper. From every Raven Crest who'd ever stood in this place, every first shield who defended their vampire, every protector who died fighting for the bond's sanctity. Their memories, their strength, their absolute conviction flowed through her bloodline like an awakening river. "You are not alone," a voice whispered. Her grandmother's voice. "We are with you. We have always been with you." Mara's marks blazed like captured stars. She could see the bonds now, truly see them. Cassius's connection to Valerian was a black chain wrapped around his heart, anchored deep. But it was also brittle, corrupted, held together by stolen magic and lies. Her bond with Valerian was different. New, yes, but pure. Unbreakable. Built on choice and trust rather than manipulation. "The crypt recognizes true bonds from false ones," Mara said, understanding flooding through her. "That's what you're really afraid of. Not my power, my authenticity." Cassius's smile faltered. "Shut her up." 4 blood mages converged on Mara, their magic forming a cage of silver light designed to contain protector abilities. But Mara wasn't just any protector anymore. She was a first shield, and the crypt itself was answering her call. The walls erupted with ancient runes, not Cassius's corrupted versions, but the original protector marks from 2,000 years ago. They recognized her blood, her heritage, her right to be here. The cage shattered before it fully formed. Mara pushed deeper into the bond, following it like a thread through darkness until she found where Cassius had anchored his control. It was buried in Valerian's earliest memories, implanted when he was just a child, moments after his mother died. "I can help you," young Cassius had whispered to the grieving boy. "I can make the pain go away. Just let me in." And Valerian, broken by loss, had accepted. That was the hook. That was where the corruption began. "I see it," Mara said aloud. "I see what you did." Cassius's expression turned dangerous. "Then you see why you can't win. That bond is foundational. Remove it, and you'll destroy Valerian's mind entirely." "She won't have to remove it," Valerian said. His voice was strained but determined. Despite the agony of the conflicting bonds tearing him apart, he'd pushed himself upright. His golden eyes met Mara's. The bond you and I share, it's real. It's chosen. He took a shaky breath. Cassius's control only works because I believed it was me making those decisions. But now I know the truth. Now I can reject it. It's not that simple. Cassius started. Yes, it is. Valerian turned to face his cousin. I reject your bond. I reject your control. I reject every lie you've built over 300 years. He reached up and grabbed the corrupted runes appearing on his chest and pulled. The dark magic resisted, but Valerian was a vampire king, ancient, powerful, and finally fighting for himself. The runes tore away like burning paper. Cassius screamed. The backlash of broken magic slammed into him, and he staggered backward, blood streaming from his nose and eyes.
No.
The ritual, complete the ritual, he shouted at his blood mages. But Mara was already moving. She touched the altar at the crypt's center, letting her marked palm connect with stone that had witnessed 10,000 bonding ceremonies. I call upon the ancient covenant, she said, words flowing from instinct and ancestral memory. The original oath between protector and vampire, witnessed by blood and sealed by choice. The crypt answered with a sound like thunder. Every corrupted rune Cassius had drawn vanished, burned away by pure white light. The blood mages collapsed, their stolen power severed. The silver shard exploded into dust. And Cassius, proud, immortal, untouchable Cassius, fell to his knees, suddenly mortal-looking. Vulnerable. What have you done? He gasped. Restored the truth, Mara said. The crypt has judged your bond false and broken it. You have no power here anymore. Valerian approached his cousin slowly, deliberately. 3 centuries of rage and betrayal were written on his face. You used my mother's death to control me, he said quietly. You manipulated every moment of my existence. You made me a prisoner in my own mind. I made you king. Cassius spat. Without me, you would have been nothing. You're right. Valerian's hand shot out, grabbing Cassius by the throat and lifting him off the ground. Without you, I would have been free. For a moment, Mara thought he would kill him. Then Valerian dropped Cassius to the ground, disgust written on his face. But I won't become you, Valerian said. I won't let revenge corrupt me the way power corrupted you. He looked at Mara. What happens to him is your choice. This is your ancestral ground. You're right. Mara stared at Cassius, the monster who'd hunted her family for 300 years, who'd orchestrated countless deaths, who'd tried to enslave her. She thought about her grandmother, hiding in fear her entire life. She thought about justice. And she made her choice. The crypt will hold him, Mara said finally. Forever. She pressed both palms against the altar, and the ancient magic responded like it had been waiting centuries for this command. Stone rose from the floor, forming a prison around Cassius, not bars, but solid rock infused with protector runes that blazed with unbreakable light. You can't do this, Cassius screamed, throwing himself against the walls. But the stone didn't even crack.
I'm vampire royalty.
The courts will never accept this. The courts will accept whatever the rightful king and his first shield decree, Valerian said coldly. And you're neither. You're just a traitor who got exactly what he deserved. The prison sealed completely, leaving only a small window. Cassius's face pressed against it, twisted with rage and disbelief. An eternity in darkness, Mara said. To think about everyone you destroyed, everyone you hurt. Maybe after a few centuries, you'll understand what you took from people. She turned away, and Cassius's screams faded into background noise. The blood mages had fled the moment their connection to Cassius broke. The crypt was empty now except for Mara and Valerian, standing in the circle of power that hummed with ancient magic. The ritual, Valerian said quietly. We still need to complete it, to restore my full strength and formalize our bond. Is that what you want? Mara asked. A bond? With me? I want you to have a choice. The choice your ancestors were denied, Valerian stepped into the ritual circle properly, standing across from her. You can walk away right now. The crypt will let you leave. You can return to your life, or start a new one somewhere far from all this supernatural politics and ancient wars. Mara looked at her marked palms, glowing softly in the crypt's light. She thought about the waitress she'd been 3 days ago, small life, small dreams, convinced nothing extraordinary would ever happen to her. She'd been so wrong. Or, she asked, or you stay. Bond with me fully, by choice. Become not just my protector, but my partner. In ruling, in rebuilding, in changing what the vampire courts have become. Valerian's expression was vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. I can't promise it will be easy. There will be courts to convince, enemies to face, centuries of corruption to undo. But we'd face it together. That's not much of a sales pitch, Mara said, but she was smiling. I'm told honesty is more effective than false promises. Mara thought about her grandmother, who'd spent her whole life running and hiding. About the Ravencrests before her, hunted and eliminated for being too powerful, too independent, too true. She thought about the bond between her and Valerian, forged in desperation but strengthened by trust. How they'd fought together, survived together, learned to move as one. I have conditions, she said. Valerian raised an eyebrow. Name them. First, this bond is between equals. I'm not your servant or your property. I'm your partner, and my voice carries the same weight as yours. Agreed. Second, we reform how protectors are treated. If there are any other bloodlines hiding out there, they get protection. Safety.
Choice.
Always choice. Absolutely agreed. Third, Mara grinned. You're buying me a new truck. Mine's completely destroyed, and I really liked that truck. Despite everything, the battle, the betrayal, the weight of centuries pressing down on them, Valerian laughed. Real, genuine laughter that echoed through the ancient crypt.
Done.
The most expensive truck money can buy. I don't need expensive. I need reliable. Then the most reliable truck money can buy. Valerian extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Mara Ravencrest? She took his hand, their marked palms pressing together. The crypt erupted with light. Power flowed between them, not one-sided, but circular, each feeding the other. Mara felt Valerian's strength flood into her, centuries of knowledge, vampire power tempered by recent suffering, determination forged in betrayal. And Valerian felt her gift in return, protector instincts awakening fully, first shield abilities crystallizing, and something else. Hope. Pure, unshakable hope for a better future. The ritual circle blazed with symbols that wrote themselves in fire and light. Ancient words appeared in the air around them, proclaiming the bond witnessed and sealed. The crypt itself seemed to exhale, satisfied that after 300 years of corruption, the sacred covenant had been restored. When the light faded, they stood transformed. Valerian's wounds had healed completely. The silver poisoning was gone, burned away by protector magic. His eyes blazed gold, power radiating from him like a physical force. He looked like what he truly was, a vampire king in full strength. And Mara could feel the change in herself too. Stronger, faster, senses heightened beyond human limits. But more than physical changes, she could feel the crypt's knowledge flowing into her, generations of protector wisdom suddenly accessible. She knew how to fight, how to shield, how to channel power she'd only glimpsed before. She also knew she'd live for centuries now. The bond would sustain her, stretch her lifespan to match Valerian's. How do you feel? Valerian asked. Terrified, Mara admitted. And ready. They left the crypt together as dawn broke above ground. The shadow-stitched had vanished with Cassius's imprisonment. The underground highway was peaceful, empty. But when they emerged in Emberfall 3 hours later, the world had changed. News traveled fast in supernatural circles. Word of Cassius's defeat and Valerian's restoration had already spread. Vampire courts across the continent were in chaos, some celebrating, others furious, all demanding audience with the returned king. But that was tomorrow's problem. Today, Valerian held an impromptu press conference in Ember Falls City Square, both human media and supernatural observers present. He stood before cameras and crowds, Mara at his side, and told the truth. About Cassius's corruption, about the Ravencrest bloodline's return, about the new partnership between vampire and protector that would reshape their world. The old ways failed us, Valerian declared. They bred paranoia, cruelty, and endless war. But today, we begin something new. A court built on choice, trust, and mutual protection. He gestured to Mara. This is Mara Ravencrest, first shield and my bonded protector. She is my equal in all things, and her word carries the full weight of the throne. The supernatural community reacted with shock. The human world, still processing that vampires existed, was simply stunned. But Mara stood tall, marked palms visible, and met their stares with calm certainty. She wasn't a waitress anymore. She was a Ravencrest, a first shield, a protector who'd chosen her path instead of having it forced upon her. And standing beside a vampire king who'd chosen freedom over power, they would reshape the world together. Later that night, in a hotel room far nicer than the Night Haven Motel, Mara finally allowed herself to process everything. She called the diner, not to beg for her job back, but to officially quit. Martha hung up on her, but Mara didn't mind. She stood at the window, looking out at Ember Falls lights, feeling the bond hum steadily in her chest. Any regrets? Valerian asked from across the room. Mara thought about it honestly, about the normal life she'd lost, the quiet anonymity, the simple problems. No, she said finally. My life before was safe. But it wasn't really living. She turned to face him, smiling. This is terrifying and complicated and probably going to get me killed a dozen times over. Probably, Valerian agreed. But it's mine. I chose it. And that makes all the difference. Through the window, dawn began to break. But this time, Valerian didn't need to hide. The bond protected him from sunlight's lethal effects, one of many gifts exchanged between protector and vampire. They watched the sun rise together, partners in an ancient covenant renewed, ready to face whatever came next. The Ravencrest bloodline had returned. And this time, nobody would ever control them again.